Your retirement score percentage, it means very little. I'm going to explain why. My name's Joshua Staff, founder of Eric Private Wealth, where we serve a select group of professionals and families who don't have time to get important financial decisions from home. So if you're retired or close to it, you've probably gotten one of these reports. Last year, your plan showed 86% chance of success, whatever that means. This year, it's showing 72%. There are really three reasons that number ever moves. What you do, you spent more or less than what's planned, what the market does, a good year or a bad one, these make sense. There's a third one that nobody really warns you about. It's what the firm does behind the scenes. That third one can come out of left field. You don't really do anything different. The market didn't do anything dramatic and you're still down 15 points because somewhere along the line they updated their long-term capital market assumptions or inflation expectations, volatility, whatever. You have no vote in that. There's no really way to tell that it happened just by looking at your number. And this isn't super important, but here, let's just take a look at this graphic here so I can illustrate what I mean. You start with 86%. That top scenario is one that we're all a little bit more familiar with. Maybe it was a bad year. The market was down 18%. Your score dropped down to 72%. Your retirement score, that is. Okay, not our favorite time, but we understand what discipline is required. So the second scenario B, though, that is whenever you get a call or you're doing your meeting and nothing really happened the prior year. The market was up 2%, mostly flat, but the assumptions were revised down. That is something that's going to happen in your life. I just want you to be aware of that. Okay, now to be fair, when we update those assumptions, it's not arbitrary. If equities just had basically a monster 5-year run or inflation expectations, they genuinely shift. Revisiting those numbers, it's important analytical work. But even when we understand all the input drivers well, the result still seems kind of abstract to a lot of families. Okay, what is the score and where does it actually come from? And most importantly, what does it actually mean? All right, if you're watching this, you're probably familiar with what a Monte Carlo simulation is. We're going to talk about that. It's been the customary planning tool for decades now. It's a way to handle uncertainty that's simply inevitable whenever we do financial planning. I believe there's a better methodology out there that I think is more intuitive and more actionable. But first, we're going to talk about the standard approach. We need to establish assumptions. We do this, we need to project future outcomes, right? It makes sense. What are large companies projected to return over the next decade or further out? What's inflation expected to do? Here's the thing. I should say something about that too. No, we do not know these numbers, right? But we can use different metrics. We can look at GDP growth and investments and inflation expectations, monetary policy, like looking at central banks, all these different things to come out with basically educated estimates, right? So anyway, say large companies expected to return 9% over the next decade. There are theoretically an infinite number of ways to geometrically average 9%. Right? There's maybe a couple of great years next to a couple of bad years, good year, bad year, good year, bad year. The order those years show up, it has a massive impact on your lifetime plan, even though the average never actually changed. So instead of running one trial, which is one single sequence of annual returns, right? You run hundreds, maybe 1,000. And that's how you cover a meaningful range of what the future could actually look like. And then it spits out a percentage. How many of those trials they still had money left whenever you needed it to, right? But as the score changes over time, we run into what I think is the major issue with this traditional methodology. Say your score drops to 72%. Fine, it's great. Now what? What does that mean? What do you do with it? Should you spend less? By how much? When does that start? Okay, the score, it doesn't say. It was never built to say, right? I'm not speaking for every advisor, obviously, or every piece of software out there, but often, maybe more than often, you ask that question, what do you do with this information? There's not a good answer waiting for you, right? Because it's a probability score. It is a diagnosis. It's not a prescription. It tells you the weather got worse. It doesn't hand you a coat. Here's what I think is a genuine breakthrough, and I do not say that lightly. I've been in this industry for a little while now. Instead of one percentage, okay, recalculated maybe once a year with no instructions attached to it, I plan around dynamic guardrails. Okay, these are specific thresholds tied to your actual portfolio with a spending response already built into each one. So the rules are set early. We agree on this beforehand, so nobody's making a decision in a panic. But the plan doesn't just sit on a shelf for a year. It's watched against your real accounts continuously. And that moment a threshold is actually crossed, we already know the response, both of us, right? And it moves in both directions. So in this example, you see you're starting with 2.4 million. Hey, We had some run up in our portfolio. We're up 20%. We jumped up to 2.88 million. Now we go down to the bottom left box and we see that our spending is allowed to increase from 120K to 132K a year and still protect the integrity of the plan. And it goes the other way as well, right? The portfolio drops 20%, 1.92 million. Now we know that we're going to trim, bottom right box in blue, from 120K to $108,000 a year. It's a way for us to understand what the outcomes are going to be before they even actually have to happen, okay? And keep in mind that as that spending might go down, that is not permanent. The moment a portfolio recovers, spending can come back with it. Retirement income is not supposed to be one static number for 30 years. No one actually spends like that. It moves because your life and your portfolio move, and the plan is built to move with them, all right? Now, there's much more that goes into income design, taxes being a main driver for decision framework, which ties into a whole myriad of other facets, but those are topics for another day. A retirement score, it tells you the odds. A plan tells you what to do when the odds change. And I think that's more important, and I'd rather build you the second one. Thanks for being here. We'll see you in a week.